Yo, what's up, guys? Prince Sports here. I want to talk about none other than Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And yes, I disagree with something that he said. I think in an interview or news article, whatever the case may be. Um, Michael Jordan said only four guys could survive in his era. Okay, so Michael Jordan, you played in the 80s and the 90s, right? You covered 2 decades of basketball, basically. Um, LeBron has played longer. Kobe has played somewhat longer. You know, they cover almost 3 decades. But Jordan, you cover 2 decades. So let's just focus on that. You said only four guys could play in your era. That's Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, Dirk Nowitzki, and LeBron James. Okay. Have you forgot about the Giannis's, the Kevin Durant's, the Kyrie Irvings? There's a lot of players that could have played in your era. You had a guy like Allen Iverson playing in the mid '90s in your era, dog. All right, and he was Kyrie Irving before Kyrie Irving, right? So if Allen Iverson could play in your era, Kyrie Irving with just as good handles could play in your era too. All right, so that's another guy you forgot and missed out on your list. Another guy is Kevin Durant. I mean, if you could shoot the basketball, you could play in any era. I don't care what people say. Will Kevin Durant be the same Kevin Durant that you know now? Maybe not. You know, that the same thing goes for LeBron James, you know? But that's not going to say that these guys wouldn't be great or wouldn't be good in any era. They still would play good. You know, it's just their statue would have been looked at different because they would have been playing in the shadow of some other players because they wouldn't have been winning most of the time. You know, like I said before, you know, you have to pit. There's levels to this, man. You know, and it's the reason why certain players get old because that gives and opens up the door for another player to come in and take that player's spot. But other guys on your list, you said LeBron James and Kobe. Okay, they'd be good in your era, but LeBron James had been underneath you, Michael Jordan. So he wouldn't been the LeBron James that we know today. Nobody would have been calling LeBron James the best player in basketball if he played in the 80s and 90s. He'd have been a great player, but he wouldn't have been called the best. So that's irrelevant. Kobe Bryant probably been the only guy that could go clash Glock for Glock with you. And if he was drafted around the same time with you, prime for prime, it'd probably been an issue for you, Michael Jordan. I think you would have beat him, but it wouldn't have been no easy task. That's for sure. But to take a shit on every other player, I don't know what's going on with some of these people now. Everybody's getting into a mix of talking about rather this player could play in your era, this player could play that in era. If you're great, you're going to be successful in any era. Giannis would have been successful in the 80s and 90s because he likes to dunk. He had been another tall version of Julius Irving, dunking the basketball. He don't have to shoot threes. All he have to do is dunk. He had been an electrifying player in the 80s and 90s. Another Sean Kemp, Dr. J Styles player. So Michael Jordan, you missed out on him. Kawhi Leonard would have been great in your era. Kawhi Leonard, a two-way player, could score, play defense. Come on, dog. There's a lot of guys that would have been good in your era, and there's a lot of guys in your era that would have been good now, especially with the way the rules change, because they would have had more advantages to try to score. They would have more moves offensively to commit and go at people with. So you got to call it both ways, Mike. You know, I don't know what you're talking about when you sit there and say only four guys. You got to miss me with that, man. You know, you got Dirk on your list, but you don't got Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a 7-footer that can shoot threes too. Kevin Durant's a better defensive player than Dirk Nowitzki. So I don't know what you're talking about with that. I mean, Mike must have been smoking too many cigars a little bit. You know, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with Michael Jordan. Anyway, man, Prince Sports is out. Peace.